Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bitcoin News Show right here on the World Crypto Network. Thanks again, guys, so much for joining us on our lovely ritual of talking Bitcoin on Sundays. This is actually episode number 73. So I've been doing this for a little while now. So let's get right into the quick bit section before we announce our classic lineup. Current Mayor multiple right now is 0.82, guys. So generally when it's 5 or 6 or 7, you want to sell. When it's 1, 2, or 3 or lower, you definitely want to buy. We're going to be talking maybe a little bit about that with Tone. I wanted to announce also, guys, that we have broke 2 million streams on our audio podcast. So on our actual iTunes account there. So very awesome, guys. Keep subscribing to iTunes. Keep listening to the content. We got a lot of good stuff to bring you. And in addition to that, we recently went over 4 million views on our YouTube channel. So we're trying to bring you guys as much content as possible, and we're kicking butt. So thanks, guys, so much for joining. Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it, and we hope to keep on going some more. Just a quick news bits, guys. A plane carrying $368 million of gold loses cargo after the door breaks. You guys got to check that out. All the links, of course, are right here in the show notes. Pretty amazing stuff. A pretty fascinating case for Bitcoin when you can lose all of this physical gold. The first blockchain monument in the world, I would say the first Bitcoin monument. The first Bitcoin monument in the world was unveiled in Slovenia this week, guys. Really awesome stuff. A big old logo of B, a big old B logo you can see from the top. They have helicopter shots on there as well as low shots. You guys got to see that. Really amazing stuff to see Bitcoin enter the consciousness of society around the world more and more. So really awesome stuff. Looking forward to seeing more of these types of monuments. And then liquid beta, you guys, the liquid beta has ended. So they are now set to for a production release in May of this year. So that is again the side chain from Blockstream, being developed from Blockstream right now to be able to allow exchanges to share liquidity in a much more easy manner, much more secure, much quicker manner. So very awesome stuff, guys. Got to check that out. Again, the liquid has ended. The liquid sidechain has ended beta. So the ecosystem is continuing to mature, especially with now we'll be talking about the beta release of Lightning. And finally, guys, it finally happened. Believe it or not, I actually got blocked by Vinny Lingham. It's been a while. I think I picked on him maybe 1 too many times. You guys got to check that out. It's kind of funny. I posted the conversation actually that got me blocked. So interesting stuff, guys. But without further ado, let's go ahead and announce the classic lineup today. Joining you guys from all over the world. Here we go. Joining us once again, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Mad Bitcoins himself. Thomas, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Really glad to have you back on this classic lineup, Thomas. Lots to talk about. And of course, everybody knows the famous Tone Vase. Tone, how you doing today, man?
Hey, Vortex. Man, I haven't been on your show in probably a year. This is kind of cool.
It's been a long time, Tone, so we really appreciate it. I'm sure my audience really appreciates having you back, so thanks so much, Tone. We missed your analysis over here, your pinpoint accurate analysis over here, man. So thanks so much for joining, Tone. Really glad to have you here, man. Really excited to have you here, actually. So let's go ahead and get right into the topics, guys. The first biggest topic of all, the price shakeout. Everybody's kind of being a little bit worried, as usual. The price goes up a little bit, everybody's happy. Price goes down, everybody panics, guys. So I wanted to, hear from the panelists and see what you guys think. We'll go with Tone first. Tone, you had some pretty bleak outlooks this morning on your morning brief that you do, letting everybody know about the prices, your morning market analysis, and it looked pretty bleak. You were throwing out numbers like 5K and stuff. So on a higher level, Tone, I just want to know from you, and get your opinions. What do you think this price shakeout is doing to altcoins, to the ecosystem? What do you think it's doing to Bitcoin? Is this really a healthy sell-off? Is the market healthy? And what is your take on this?
Well, that's actually an interesting question. The way you phrased it, is it healthy?
Is it good for the ecosystem at large? What do you think?
I don't know. No one really knows. I don't know if it's healthy. It really depends on is it going to purge the garbage from the ecosystem, right? I mean, was it healthy for Bitcoin to go down for a year and a half in 2014 into mid-2015? Because remember, all of our shows, if you go back to all of those shows back then, all in the early 2014 shows, it was all about who's the next business that's going to accept Bitcoin. And most of those businesses have actually stopped accepting Bitcoin, right? So was it healthy for a lot of these businesses to start accepting Bitcoin only to kind of find it totally useless and then drop it from accepting Bitcoin? I don't know. Like, is it good for you to convince your neighbors to finally buy into Bitcoin and then only to listen to their complaining for the next 6 to 12 months? I don't know if that part of it is healthy, but I do like the fact that it's gonna set things back to normal. It's gonna make people understand that this is a technology first and speculation second. And if this Bitcoin correction brings down the insanity of ICOs and altcoins, then I think this is going to be very healthy. I mean, I thought that the NASDAQ bubble was pretty healthy. It actually purged this idea that all you got to do is have a .com and you get to be a millionaire. It completely purged that permanently out of human thinking. And that was good. The 2008 bubble was not very healthy because a lot of people lost real jobs, not fictional.com jobs, and the entire globe was actually in jeopardy because if too many businesses lose money, then it's kind of every man and woman for themselves, and it gets really, really weird. So I think this is generally healthy. It's still being somewhat orderly as far as the drop goes. I now only making lower end targets. I was pretty bleak this morning, and it looks like it's already playing out that way, even faster than I thought it would. I thought we can hang here another day or two. I'm looking for a potential bottom in about 5 days, but hopefully, the bottom in 5 days is closer to 6,000 for a secondary short-term bottom before going lower, as opposed to going all the way to 4. But I'm not very optimistic on the price right now from a technical perspective.
So from a technical perspective, it's not looking super great right now, as you say. But what about the fundamentals? What is your view on the fundamentals of Bitcoin, maybe, and the ecosystem at large, real quick? What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. I love the fundamentals of Bitcoin right now. I love the fact that the big blockers are, they're still a major annoyance, but at least they have their own coin to screw up and not actual Bitcoin. The developments in Lightning channels are happening a lot faster than I thought. I did not expect the beta release to be out already. So that's moving real well. I like the fact that they got some real funding and they didn't ICO. Imagine the problems we would have right now if Lightning Labs ICO'd. That would be a complete and utter disaster. So the Liquid project is coming out now. I really, really like it. I can't believe the big blockers are still accusing Blockstream of being, having some kind of a conspiracy theory on that, because Gregory Maxwell, probably him and Peter Willa, they were the top 2 developers, and now they're down to just Peter Willa because Gregory Maxwell now wanted to go on his own, couldn't take the nonsense anymore. And so it's good. I mean, everything is getting more decentralized. There's some mining competition coming in with Dragon Mint, taking that away from Bitmain. So there goes the conspiracy theories that mining is too centralized for Bitcoin. I mean, these altcoin pushers are starting to really grasp at straws on how to continue to demonize Bitcoin in order to pump their own altcoin. As Bitcoin continues to be more decentralized, more secure, better features, scaling is on the verge of happening. I love it. I want to get as many Bitcoin as I can on this entire ride down, because the next ride up is going to be swift and is going to leave everyone in the dust.
Great point, Stone. Yeah, I think I believe Ansel mentioned that again on Twitter as well, that the next bull run is going to have Lightning full intact. So I mean, it should be able to accelerate exponentially. So the next one should be big. Just to let's see, I was going to ask one final follow-up.
I'll say my one disappointment, though. My one disappointment is that so holding how do I say this, right? So I have not tried Samurai Wallet yet on my phone. So that's my last hope for a decent phone wallet. The phone wallets on the market they all suck. I hate them all right now. Like every one of them frustrates me to no end. I need to try out Samurai, and my last hope for a wallet, my phone wallet that I would like, And if I don't even like that one, then that needs to be greatly improved. I'm sorry, guys.
Yep, I have to agree with the wallets. I mean, they have pretty user interfaces, which is okay, but they have a lot of issues like BitPay, of course, trying to put Bitcoin Cash in there, and then other wallets just having security issues. So yeah, very interesting stuff. Let's go to Thomas then and get his thoughts on this. So Thomas, what is your comments on the discussion so far and the price shakeout? What do you think? Is this good or bad? Is this healthy? Is this a healthy market still a healthy market that we're in?
Well, certainly, I think a lot of people got into Bitcoin because of the price. They saw that the price went up and they wanted a part of that. And now they're learning that there's much more to Bitcoin than just the price. We've almost forgot about the mission, right? The reason that they came up with cryptocurrency. If you go back to Satoshi launching this with that newspaper article in there in 2008, it was about the big banks and the bailouts, and that he didn't feel he could trust the old system. And if you look at how the old system's made, how the deposits are created, where the money's stored, what the money's for, you do have to question it. You maybe say, I want something like Bitcoin that's censorship resistance free money, where you can send it to anyone across any imaginary line, where your account can never be frozen by someone picking up a phone. And that's what Bitcoin is. It's adult money. It's censorship resistance. And we didn't think that it was going to be easy, did we? That the governments would just roll over, that no one would try to stop us, that the price would just go up endlessly. Did anyone think that? Obviously, you're getting a lesson today that Bitcoin can go up like crazy and it can go down like crazy. And yes, the drops are painful. I don't think anyone sold as much as they wanted at the top. I think a lot of us got locked into that round number thing again. 20,000 is a big number, but 19.5, that was a sweet sell. It's always these half fractional numbers. A long time ago, Litecoin never made it to $40, but it made it to like 39.5. And nobody got their sells, and it went back down and it went back up. As for the altcoins, to mention Litecoin, it is interesting to see people go back to this Bitcoin dominance index. And I know you disagreed with someone using it on Twitter, but I do think it's starting to become more important as we look at the technical side of this and we say Bitcoin's got side chains, Bitcoin's got Lightning, Bitcoin's got Schnorr signatures, it's got confidential transactions, bulletproofs, it's got all these new ideas that are coming out. The other ones don't have this. So if you're looking at your portfolio and it's full of useful utility tokens that might have a questionable legal future, you might want to move on. And as for the Ethereum thing, we've always said these large startups that got paid in Ethereum are eventually going to have to sell some of it. And we're seeing their price start to sag as a lot of these large startups say, we need that money to spend. We can't just endlessly hold and hope it goes back up.
I just wanted to comment real quick on that high. By the way, I fixed my mic. I didn't realize I wasn't using my Yeti, so it should sound much better now. One quick comment on the price. It was a sell the news event. It was the futures. Everyone pumped the price of Bitcoin that Wall Street was getting in. Futures launch, and it's not a big deal. It was a complete dud. Barely any volume over there on Wall Street Bitcoin futures. They're not all that relevant. And there you go. It was that along with the Mt. Gox seller and a lot of other things. Like once some people start selling, other people start selling, and it's just a cycle until the last guy sells, and then we go up. It's perfectly fine. Better now than if Bitcoin went straight to 100K. Deal with it now. From 20K back down to 5, maybe back down to 4, even 3. Better that than from 100K back down to 10. That's going to be worse.
I'd also say what we need are more buyers. If you look at the current situation like Bittrex or any of these Poloniex, Gemini, people are waiting to be confirmed. They're sending in their IDs. They want to be confirmed. Robinhood has like 1 million people in line to use their cryptocurrency app. There are people that want to buy and they can't get to the market. So if we give it some time, if these queues are reduced, if people hire more people for identity verification, it could bring more buyers to this market.
Absolutely great points, guys. It really is only March. I mean, people don't realize this. We still have a lot of a year left. Everything moves so fast in crypto, but it is interesting that 20K, how that accelerated Bitcoin even more into the mainstream. We had celebrities like Ellen, and now this week Peter Thiel and John Oliver, covering crypto and Bitcoin. We're with each one of these bull runs, we're getting more and more into the world's consciousness, and now we're building monuments. So we're really getting there. And again, as Tone said, this is cycles. Bitcoin evolves every year. Bitcoin is not the year, the Bitcoin of last year. Every year to 2 year, Bitcoin just completely evolves to just a new state. Right now, we are in a completely new state. For example, than in 2016, we have SegWit and Lightning and on and on. They're a completely new state. And then another year or two, it will be in a completely new state again, because we'll have more and more technology being used on top of Bitcoin. So, and these old systems, absolutely point, Thomas. I just want to point out these old systems, people might have forgot the mission a little bit here, with all these ICOs. Tone and the WCN has been, trying to tell you guys that these ICOs for the most part are unlicensed, unregulated securities. They always have been. They will be continued. They will get completely regulated into the ground, just like PayPal. If there was any successful ICO at all, in any time at all, then it would just turn into a PayPal. It absolutely would just completely be regulated into a PayPal. Bitcoin is really our only main shot here at a truly decentralized monetary policy, a truly open, borderless, decentralized financial system that we can all kind of agree on. And so, that is, according to you guys, great fundamentals still, great fundamentals. And I agree with that. Absolutely. We have hugely amazing fundamentals. But again, as you guys say, when Bitcoin starts to sell, when people sell, other people sell, which makes other people sell. We're at a very, very early days where Bitcoin is not really being used so much. It is being used much more, in the markets more for a speculative thing. But again, Bitcoin is the only public blockchain at scale. So it does have the only real economic activity at the same time. But of course, because these early days, it's purely speculative. There's all these people that are just going to buy Bitcoin because other people are buying Bitcoin, and they, especially in first world countries where their fiat still works halfway decent. But of course, there will be a day where their fiat will not work so great anymore. And just really quick on the Bitcoin domination index. Yeah, I did tweet out that I really think it's useless, but as you guys pointed out, there is still some value, some utility in it. It's still a bit of a measurement, right, on the state of altcoins and ICOs. But I just meant that it's worthless in evaluating Bitcoin's value, because Bitcoin is always dominant. It is the store of value. It is the unit of account. With Lightning, it will be the medium of exchange of all of crypto. And so it's only a matter of time. So the whole idea of the domination index, it's almost like should be the altcoin relative index or something like that instead of the Bitcoin domination index, because there is only Bitcoin. So very interesting.
That would be a much less maximalist way to put it. I wanted to agree with you on the idea of a new state. I really feel like we've gone through a reset now in Bitcoin, and that we have the chance to go back to the basics. When I talk to people now about Bitcoin, they don't tell me about the Silk Road. They don't tell me about drugs. Maybe they have some pie in their sky. They want to get rich. They have that in their mind. But we can take these new people, we can take these new ideas, and we can teach them the same fundamentals, that this is about being your own bank. It's about adult money. You store your own money. You're responsible for it. No one can take it away from you, and you can send it to anyone you want. And I think that go back to the basics. Go to your Bitcoin meetups. Talk to your friends again. Tone said, yeah, maybe they bought at 15K or 18K. If you really believe in your investment, double down. Get some at a low price, do dollar cost averaging, and try to equal that out. If someone's never invested before, they could still invest. And if you've never tried it, remember the whole point of this technology is to try it. Get some on your phone, send $5 to a friend, send $5 to them, their friend. It still works, right? If it's $100 or it's $1,000, you can send $5 around, no problem.
Absolutely. One Bitcoin will always, guys, always be worth one Bitcoin. And again, Thomas, that's why I follow only one account, the Federal Reserve, to again try to bring awareness back to the original ideas, the original themes, the original cypherpunk ideals about why Bitcoin was created in the first place, why we created this super slow, inefficient database that we call the blockchain. It was for the purpose of censorship resistance. So excellent points, guys. I think we can move on to the next topic. Just want to ask everybody to go ahead and give us a thumbs up if you guys like what you're hearing. If you are new to the show, please subscribe to the World Crypto Network. We'd love to have you. We went over 50,000 followers. We're continuing to climb. We really appreciate everybody subscribing, and we'll try to bring you guys more and more content. So we can go ahead and move on to the next topic. This is a little bit interesting. The Bittrex exchange announced, and I think other exchanges will announce soon too, that they're delisting tons and tons of tokens. Bittrex specifically said they were going to delist 82 tokens to be removed. And then of course we have the SEC talking about dozens of investigations underway with ICOs and alts. And so I'm going to ask you, Tone, first. How do you think this is going to affect the ecosystem and alts and ICOs at large. When we have these exchanges going to delist more and more tokens this year, is this really going to maybe make Bitcoin shine even more? Is this going to bring people back to understanding the real value, where the real value is in the space? Or is this a sign of the whole space, the crypto space, being undone? And is this just it? Are we just going to get regulated to hell?
Neither, actually. As far as I know, they're just delisting complete garbage, right? They're delisting things like Paycoin, even though Paycoin is probably maybe they'll keep in that one. I think they're just delisting things that they have no volume on. I mean, there's like thousands of these like ICOs and altcoins out there. So I really think they're just delisting stuff that they just cannot make money on, and it's not worth it for them to maintain those trading pairs. I don't think this has anything to do with the SEC stuff. Now, the SEC is going to come down in a different way. I mean, if the SEC is going to come down on an exchange like Bittrex, they wouldn't be able to trade anything on there other than, Monero, Litecoin, Bitcoin. I mean, you'd have to go back to pre-Ethereum days. And this is a good transition, actually, because for some reason, people have forgotten that Ethereum is an ICO. It's absolutely amazing to me. It's absolutely amazing. So here's the answer that I get. Ethereum was an ICO, but it's not an ICO anymore. Like, that matters. It really doesn't. I mean, you are an ICO when one guy gets to create your tokens and sells them to unqualified investors. You're an ICO. You're going to be an ICO for life. So I was very critical of Coinbase, where a representative of Coinbase sat down in front of Congress, for Christ's sake, in front of Congress, and said that Coinbase does not participate in ICOs, but they're trading Ethereum and they let you buy Ethereum. So the way it's being spun, well, they're not participating in the new ICOs. But what does that mean? That means that they couldn't participate in that anyway, because the only one that participates in an ICO is the company that is ICOing. An exchange in the crypto space never participates in the ICO because they're not creating the token. The difference is, this is why only companies like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley are allowed to take American companies IPO. Maybe there's a couple of others. The reason for that is because these companies are trusted not to hand out pre-IPO shares to friends, family, insiders, and influential people on Twitter and Reddit. This is how all of that insider garbage got eradicated. Go and watch the movie Wolf of Wall Street. This is what he went to prison for, because they were taking companies IPO and paying themselves on giving shares to themselves before taking a company IPO. That's what he got busted for. That was the illegal part of it. This is what I've seen from almost every single pre-ICO. Okay, so no exchange is actually involved in taking you ICO because you're doing it yourself. So any exchange that after the fact allows the selling of that ICO, in my mind, is in violation of security laws of IPO companies. So Coinbase, I'm not a lawyer, but like you don't need to be a lawyer to understand that Coinbase is in violation of these laws by selling Ethereum. Now, of course, the other problem with the situation is during those hearings, one of the people on the panel is telling the congressman that the SEC and the CFTC should have the jurisdiction to go after these ICOs. Meanwhile, the chairman of the SEC and the chairman of the CFTC are both telling Congress that they don't have the authority to go after these ICOs and they need new regulation. So this is bad, because the congressman is asking the lawyer on the panel, so are you saying that the chairman of the SEC doesn't know what he's talking about? And it's a hard question to answer. And this is why I will never agree to sit in front of Congress, because I would actually blurb out on national TV, yes, the chairman of the SEC is obviously a complete moron, okay? Because they have the authority for this, okay? They're just too lazy to actually enforce it, okay? And you don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want Congress making up new regulation specific for the ICOs, because it's going to be so much worse than the current regulation that the SEC could use to actually get rid of this nonsense. if they have to create new legislation for the ICOs, it's going to get so much worse, and Bitcoin is going to get stuck in that net. Okay, because right now the SEC should have sufficient jurisdiction to go and arrest every single Ethereum co-founder if they wanted to, and Bitcoin would be totally untouched. But if they go and change these laws, they might actually let all of the Ethereum founders slide, and at the same time create legislation for upcoming stuff that's going to make it so much worse for Bitcoin. So I am not happy about this at all, and I think this is going to probably end badly if they have to create new legislation. So that's kind of my current frustration with it, is that nobody really wants to do anything, and if they're going to do something, they want draconian laws on the entire crypto space to do something.
So, Tone, then you don't think that they'll be that they're going to separate it, like for example, into security tokens and more commodity-like tokens like Bitcoin?
Well, they can't, right? Because they should be able to do that now, but like there's no such thing as a utility token. The concept of a utility token only exists to get around security laws. Like security tokens just make absolutely no sense. Why on earth do you want to use a token inside your operation that gets traded by 12-year-olds? I don't understand, right?
Well, the security token can't do that. The security tokens actually act like regular securities. Remember, you have to be 18, you have to be a qualified investor. It's the utility tokens, I think, that all the 12-year-olds are allowed to buy.
No, they're all the same, right? I mean, they want everything in one. I mean, the only way that, I mean, in my mind, if you're not a proof of work chain like Bitcoin, like Litecoin, then you will be by default a security. If one guy creates it, you're a security. Now, Zcash is a scam for other reasons. Zcash is actually not an ICO. Every block of Zcash was mined fairly. Their problem is that they're printing money for themselves by taking 20% of every block. So they're probably in violation of other things, but not security laws. Again, my non-professional opinion.
Very interesting. Yeah, I still think that they're going to try to separate these different types of tokens, security tokens, utility tokens, and things like that. Just to be able to try to manage it better, so they can have the CFTC manage something and then the SEC manage something else, so that they can clearly try to define some type of borders between these regulators, so they can at least try to do the job. But it'd be interesting to see how it's going to all play out. They had those types of discussions just recently in these recent hearings about ICO specifically with the SEC and things like that. Even in addition to after the meeting that involved the CFTC, they had meetings just about ICOs and security tokens. So interesting to see how that's going to play out. And I guess the main advantage, Tone, for using the security token, I believe they said, was to use something like the T0 platform, where you can, in fact, have zero time, right? The T0 is the time for settlement. So it would actually, you would have all sorts of advantage in the fact that you could get rid of around a lot.
But the T0 itself is an ICO on Ethereum, right? Like you can't use the T0 platform because they themselves should be in violation of all these security laws.
But they're not, right? Because the SEC cleared them. They got all the things that they need. They were not subpoenaed recently in this huge list of people that got subpoenaed. So clearly the regulators like it.
We'll see. We'll see where it ends, right? Because it's going to be a fine line to draw. But is the T0 token an ERC20 on Ethereum?
No, I don't believe that the T0 token is on Ethereum. I believe they had to build their own thing. If that's not true, then if it is on ERC20, then that would be completely screwed. That would defeat the purpose.
Well, I'm not familiar with it, and also the whole 3-day settlement thing is actually not a problem. It's a regulatory problem. It's not a technological problem. You don't need a token. You don't need a blockchain.
Well, exactly. That's what T0 was created, so that you could have less regulation, less legislation around it, and make it easier for people to both use invest and use the token itself.
That's fine, but it's not a blockchain, but it's being sold as a blockchain, which is ridiculous.
Correct. Yeah, that's true. It is being sold as a blockchain when really it is just a distributed database. But I guess, yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's more in lines of that. They're just trying to streamline. As you know, Patrick Byrne is trying to streamline it a bit to try to remove some of the corruption out there. And this may or may not do that, but it's definitely better than the status quo, I think, than what we have now.
I do have to look into it now. It'll be hilarious if he's trying to get rid of corruption, by doing an ICO and pre-selling it to his friends. I mean, that would be the ultimate irony.
That would, absolutely would. Let's go to Thomas next to see what your thoughts are about all this. Thomas, what is your thoughts on the discussion and these exchanges delisting these tokens now?
Well, I think it's a little bit like Alice in Wonderland, and that the rabbit's already out of the hat and Pandora's already out of her box, right? Well, I want to go to what Tone said last. He was talking about the lazy SEC and that the regulation will be for ICOs and that Bitcoin will get caught up into this net. And I really pictured a real net, and I pictured all the altcoins like fish. And I saw Bitcoin getting caught up in the net. But the problem was Bitcoin's an anchor. It's big and it's heavy and it cuts right through the net because there's no one to get. You can't get Satoshi Nakamoto. Hal Finney's dead. Random people are running the network, and you can't shut the network down. So the problem with these altcoins and these ICOs and all these projects has always been they have a public team of founders. They have an address. You just go there, serve them a subpoena, shut down their computers, take their code. Maybe their network kind of runs on the outside, but without them working on it, without the new code, eventually their project will likely die. The thing about Bitcoin is it's already running leaderless. It's already running essentially serverless because no one is paying to run those servers, unlike all of the fake blockchains and the Chase Cisco servos and things. So I really do think with these draconian laws, yeah, we're afraid of them. Yeah, it's going to be bad for the market in the short term. But in the long term, if we really do have the technology, if we have the confidential transactions, if we have the people working on Schnorr signatures and bringing in the Zcash and the privacy ideas, if we have the technology, it doesn't matter what the regulations are. They're definitely going to come. They're definitely going to push us down. They're going to put Bitcoin in the same box with a lot of junk, and all the junk's going to die off, but Bitcoin will keep going. So I think we'll be fine in the long run. I think we have to focus on the technology, focus on the world-changing aspects of this, the way you can send money anywhere you want, and so forth. Going back to the beginning of what Tone was saying, totally agree. Bittrex is likely cleaning the house for profits. These 82 coins are likely not the most profitable coins on Bittrex. And if it was a legal issue to sell these coins that they were dirty, they'd already be liable for all of the trades. So shutting it down only stops the bleeding. There's already a ton of blood everywhere. I agree with Tone. Ethereum was an ICO. It was shocking to hear Coinbase say that to the Congress. Of course, they weren't under oath, likely. But an interesting fact, if you guys watched the John Oliver show this weekend, he did a big thing on Bitcoin and Ethereum and EOS and everything else. And everything that John Oliver said about EOS, we said about Ethereum before it came out. It was a pretty marketing logo. It was shaped like a diamond. It rotated on the page. They had a countdown clock. If you didn't buy fast enough, the price would go up. And at least in the short term, we were completely wrong. The price of Ethereum went up like crazy. There's a big ecosystem there. So it'll be curious to see if John Oliver is right on EOS or wrong on EOS. And it was interesting to see the EOS team start to back away from I'm just blocking. Bryce Blake. Damn it. What's his name? Oh, well, whatever.
Brock Pierce.
Brock Pierce. They're backing away from Brock Pierce for the new videos, not for any of the old videos. But it was interesting to see Brock take it the other way. And he was very proud on Twitter of his unicorn wedding and very defensive of his good work promoting EOS, which EOS went crazy up. Brock helped promote it. He succeeded in that.
Well, yeah, no, I watched that from time, like in Times Square during Consensus. They had it on billboards. It was sponsoring parties, and John Oliver didn't do it, but Ethereum was also like Tezos. I expected Ethereum to end exactly the way Tezos is ending right now, with never launching and being sued by the investors. That's what I foresaw from Ethereum, because it's exactly the same project.
And there are certainly hundreds of other ICOs that we never talk about that went up and went down, and they took all the money and all the investors with them, and we don't know. We just don't mention them all. But one more thing, and maybe Tone, give your comments on this. What do you think of Vitalik Buterin working with Putin so much now? Do you think there's going to be a new Russian Ethereum, a Russian EOS? And how will this affect the main line of Ethereum if Vitalik goes home?
Well, on that front, I mean, I said it the moment we heard about it. It was on this show. It makes every bit of sense for Vitalik to be as close to the Russian government as possible, because that's his best get out of jail free card. his best get out of jail free card is to be associated with the Russian government and living in Russia. I mean, look at Snowden, right? America can't go and get Snowden, right?
And Vitalik has $1 billion. Snowden has nothing.
Right. So, right. I mean, I'm sure the SEC does not want to cause an international incident, which is why Ethereum might actually get a pass. And it has nothing to do with the actual legality of the situation. It could become a political issue. And this could get worse because Ethereum can still end like Tezos. Ethereum could still end like the DAO that was on top of Ethereum. And the bigger that thing grows, any kind of technological issues on Ethereum could be potentially a big problem. So that's how I see the play from Vitalik's angle, because he sees that the monster that he created with all of these ICOs, most of which, if not all of these, if you ask me, are scammy. And Vitalik needs to somehow get out of the insanity that he created. And what better way? I can't think of a better way to get out of a bad situation than becoming friends with Putin.
Let's remember these founders are not tied to these coins, projects, or ICOs forever. Jeb McCaleb was with Mt. Gox, with Stellar, with Ripple, then Stellar. The other guy, Dan Larimer, was with BitShares, then Steemit, then EOS or Neo. I'm not sure, one of those now.
EOS.
And again, they can move on to another project. They presumably got paid early. It's likely you that's holding the bag.
Of course. So. And going back to Ethereum, Vitalik was the only one of the 8 co-founders that was still with the Ethereum project when it finally went live. What does that tell you?
There's 7 other billionaires out there.
Interesting stuff, guys. Let me just end this with a follow-up topic or a follow-up question real quick. I'll go first to you, Tone. Is this the end then, Tone, of the pump and dumps, of the end of all of these penny stocks? Like, are we going to now actually only see like a more traditional looking market where we have just a top few blue chip stocks and then a million just completely penny stocks? No more $1 billion ICO markets? Or
I think so, because look, the history of global finance throughout the centuries, regulation always comes too late. The regulation on selling, horrible mortgages came after the housing crisis. The regulation on the .coms and IPOs came after the .com bubble. So chances are the day they come up with regulation for these ICOs, the market would have already purged them out of existence, right? So if this Bitcoin correction continues all the way down to what I foresee a potential for a $1,300 Bitcoin, Ethereum can actually go down back to $20, okay? And I think most of these ICOs will just go belly up. I think that what will finally reverse Bitcoin, and it can actually reverse Bitcoin earlier than 1,300, is the realization that these ICOs are nothing but .coms with a billboard. And all of the money will leave the ICOs, and it's going to flood back into Bitcoin, okay? So I see the purging of the ICO bubble before regulation, gets it together, and then they will start to regulate in the aftermath. And I hope it's not, and then it'll be irrelevant, right? Like look, they're removing the Dodd-Frank now because Dodd-Frank was one of the stupidest piece of legislation in finance ever, because the market had already crashed. No one on Wall Street was going to do all that stuff again because none of them actually want to lose their jobs when the bubble pops. So when the Dodd-Frank actually came in, nobody was doing that stuff anyway, and all it did was make the situation going forward in finance worse, okay? So a lot of this regulation shows up late, and I think this market's going to purge, but it should have never got this bad. I mean, people should have listened to us about Ethereum. It should have never got this bad.
Yep. And so I of course don't see us going down to 1,300, Tone. I do think that we have more people in the space, more buyers waiting in the wings, ready to buy. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to watch all these ICOs go back to their normal values instead of being $1 billion for some token that just was created out of nowhere. Like Tron just came out of nowhere, multi-billion-dollar market cap. What do you think, Thomas? Is this the end of the pump and dump era for cryptos?
Well, I'm not sure about that because every time Bitcoin goes down and comes back up, the altcoins always seem to follow back up even further. So I'm not even going to say that. But I do think that we've already seen a change in where the ICOs are getting their funding. When it started out, there was a bunch of 12-year-olds who invested in the DAO. They should have been punished, but they weren't. They were refunded their money for their bad investment of the DAO. This led to irrational exuberance where they just went all over the market, spending that free money that they should have lost at the DAO casino.
Oh, they saw it as they should have diversified.
Yeah, into more DAOs.
That was their lesson.
One
Their
DAO.
lesson was I should have diversified into a lot of crappy projects instead of just one.
Exactly. And we saw a whole marketplace spring up with this money and all these new projects. But if you're looking at it now, the new ICOs are all privately funded. Telegram did an ICO. And for all of us being Telegram users, we didn't get a share of that ICO. It was all private money. This idea is out there. The idea that I can give you a digital token as a receipt for our transaction and that the SEC is completely gone. The SEC being completely gone is a big problem. Leads to this open market where anyone can rip anyone off. And they used to rip people off in public with timers and countdowns. Now they're ripping them off in private. I don't think it's over. I think, unfortunately, it's far from over.
All right, interesting indeed. So very good points, guys. Very good discussion so far. I think we can head into our final topic here and maybe talk about some of those fundamentals we spoke about earlier in the show that really are going to drive Bitcoin's prices up here in the next couple of years, with the halving approaching us quicker than we think. You know, in June of this year, it will be less than 2 years until the halving. And so I think a lot of people are going to start bringing that up next year. But let's go ahead and talk about this. This is a pretty big day, pretty big week for Bitcoin. It was pretty highly celebrated. The highly anticipated Lightning Network when the beta went live this week, guys. So I mean, this is a really great milestone, I think, in Lightning's history. They raised 2.5 million in funding, and I mean, a lot of great tweets out there were saying like, look, breaking, right? And a blockchain company raises a normal amount of money, or rather, a blockchain company actually produces something, a product, and then raises a normal amount of money, like unheard of stuff, right, guys? So very, I'm just really glad for Elizabeth, Elizabeth Stark, all the Lightning teams, but of course, LND specifically, Lightning Lab specifically to on this raise. This will allow them to continue building out this network. So let me ask you, Tone, what are your thoughts on Lightning being released as a beta? I mean, will this be looked at as when Lightning actually went live? And do you think that this can really turn Bitcoin into the medium of exchange for the whole space?
I do. I mean, I'm optimistic about it. I don't have the technical capacity to literally look at the code and make sure that it's legit, but I trust the people in the code review that are doing it. Now, of course, having your own Lightning node needs to be as simple as downloading a Bitcoin wallet. And I've already complained how terrible all the Bitcoin wallets are on your phone. So that needs to greatly improve. Sorry. Now, it's not easy setting up a Bitcoin node. So this needs to be completely seamless. So if you are looking for Bitcoin to be this medium of exchange that can handle micropayments, it needs to be very, very easy to go through Lightning. And it's good that they got real investment. They got investment from qualified investors that understand investing. They understand what they're doing. And in reality, I mean, Lightning can't just take a cut for themselves. There are going to be fees there going to Lightning channels, but there's no fee going to Lightning Labs. So the question is, what are all of these investors getting for their investment? Well, they're probably Bitcoin holders. And it's to their advantage to make sure Bitcoin does win it's going to be one blockchain take all. And a lot of these investors, they probably have a bunch of Bitcoin. And if they don't, then I don't understand why they're investing in this technology. They should be holding Bitcoin, and they will make up for their investment by Bitcoin skyrocketing in value when Lightning Labs delivers on the product. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy about it. Let's see how it works. I don't have my own Lightning node yet. Hopefully it'll be very, very simple and a lot simpler than setting up a Bitcoin node.
Yeah, and in the early days of technology, it is kind of purposefully set to be only like a command line interface thing, right? Because we don't kind of want everybody just yet downloading this. As you say, Tone, the user interfaces are kind of very new right now, very, very beginning, very early stages. And even Bitcoin itself, it's just simply not ready for global consumer adoption, let alone the Lightning Network, right? Because it is only beta. We just launched beta. So very interesting stuff. Let's go ahead and go with Thomas. Thomas, what do you think about this release? Is Lightning living up to the hype? Is it going to live up to the hype? What do you think, Thomas?
Well, I wanted to start by echoing what Tur de Meester said on Twitter. He said that with Lightning, they didn't find just investors, they found partners. And if you look at the people that invested in this, it's Cash App, which is really Twitter. It's the Robinhood trading app. I don't have the list of the other ones here, but they were all
Jack Dorsey, man. Jack Dorsey from Twitter.
Yeah, from Twitter, Cash App, same thing. But still, these were partners. What Tone was saying, what are the investors going to get out of this? They're going to get a technology they can take back to their companies and use. We've been critical of Coinbase for a long time because they had a simple strategy. Transactions go up, they charge per transaction, they make money, right? The problem was people stopped transacting. Bitcoin became a low transaction network. They're not going to make any money. Now everyone said, why don't they go to Lightning? Why don't they have a vision? And they simply didn't have it. If you look at these new companies, if you look at Twitter, Square, Jack Dorsey, he has a vision. He sees that we need low-cost micropayments through something like the Lightning Network, and he's putting his money where his mouth is. This is investing to improve the space, a space that he thinks will be filled with the Cash App, and that Robinhood thinks will be filled with their trades, and everyone will profit from the success of Lightning Labs. Also, I wanted to second that it's good that they didn't do an ICO. It's good that they raised a reasonable amount of money through traditional platforms, through VC. There's no way that the Lightning Network can be sued now. There's no way these developers have to waste their time on any of these SEC inquiries or how many tokens there were, or if they pre-sold them or any kind of nonsense. It's just traditional startup. So it's good to see. I don't think there's any conspiracy here. Everyone calls Blockstream a conspiracy. I'm waiting for the Lightning conspiracies. All I've heard so far is that Roger Ver thinks it's a Rube Goldberg machine, which is really sad and kind of shows his level of technical understanding. A Rube Goldberg machine, of course, is when one thing is set off by the next thing.
This is literally the opposite of a Rube Goldberg machine.
Absolutely. And they've spent all this time explaining it in papers and traveling around and giving speeches. And I know Roast Beef talks really fast, but Roger, you can slow it down on YouTube. You don't have to say ridiculous things like Rube Goldberg machine. And again, if you support Bcash, your leader believes that this complex Lightning Network that they raised all this money for, that all these people believe in, there's all these papers written on, is a simple one to the next machine. That's your leader. So it's great stuff. Congratulations, Lightning Network. Yeah.
Yes, guys, great points. Yeah, it is interesting to see some of the Bcash people on Twitter just literally having no technical argument at all for their hate of Lightning. They literally said something like, quote, if you look into the Lightning, you'll hate it as much as I do. And it's like, what is there to hate? This is a second layer protocol, people. This is going to be not over just Bitcoin, but over everything. So yeah, let me I guess put in my thoughts real quick here, and then we got to go. I want to try to keep this to an hour. But basically, look, guys, Microsoft did research on this, right? Many other companies, but most notably, Microsoft researched for over a year about the best type of scaling methods for blockchain, right? And they came out and said that the on-chain scaling approach is not the right way. Not only does it not achieve database level, Visa level like transactions, right? But it decreases the decentralization. And that's the key point, because that's the whole reason for having a blockchain in the first place. So guys, I really encourage everybody listening to go ahead and check out that paper. There was a lot of research done on it, so check that out. And Lightning is continuing to increase. I mean, the transactions are increasing, the channels are increasing, and I think that people, when they see Lightning, they're maybe right now they're like, look, it's barely growing. Or even Bitcoin, right? They look at the transactions, they're like, well, it's going up a little bit, but people tend to think linearly instead of exponentially. And I think that Lightning will allow exponential amount of transactions on Bitcoin, because we can now go from just regular manual transactions, right, from one to one, to literally, AI-driven, software-driven, purely software-driven transactions. So we're talking, millions and billions of transactions, like from the Internet of Things and on and on. This with technology like the atomic multipath payments, right? Where on Lightning we can break up payments into little bits like HTTP packets and route them around the Lightning Network for even quicker transaction finality time. So this is just really, I think, going to drive exponential rate in transactions, where a lot of people think that maybe Lightning will take away transactions from miners, or because you get a bit of a fee for running a Lightning node. But it's not even close to the case, guys. Right now Bitcoin is a little tiny thing because it can only do 3 to 7 transactions per second, because it's small, because it's new. But when we are ready to onboard the planet, everybody here on Earth, we need to be able to support that type of transaction. We're talking thousands, millions, and billions, way past Visa, when we're talking about software programs running Lightning all over the planet, and it built into your phone and built into everything. And so that's going to be really interesting. And of course, haven't even mentioned yet the atomic swaps, right? This is going to allow decentralized exchanges, guys, atomic swaps across tokens that support the Lightning network. And again, as Thomas said, some notable investors into this, real investors, Jack Dorsey, David Sachs, Vlad from Robinhood. This is the next level of Bitcoin, because we're literally going now from just kind of Ethernet to TCP/IP. We are now expanding upon the Bitcoin network and allowing for an entire layer above the Bitcoin network, an entirely new application stack that's going to sit on this Lightning network, that's going to allow for applications that we cannot even perceive, cannot even guess what's going to happen. So very interesting stuff. So I think that's my bit on Lightning, and I think we can I think we can end it. Does anybody else have any final things to say about Lightning?
No, that's it. Other than, I don't really care for atomic swaps, because I don't think altcoins are going to be with us. So why is a developer wasting his time on decentralizing something for something that probably won't exist and will not be necessary? So that's the one project that I just don't understand what the hype's about.
I guess some, from my personal opinion, a little bit of that hype is that Bitcoin can't do everything, right? And we don't want it to do everything right away. We do want to have other chains experimenting on different ideas and technologies that we can later adapt for Bitcoin. So I think it really that's a big part of it. It's just because there's always going to be some tokens that exist that have value, that are in addition to Bitcoin, however little value they have, because of their uniqueness. There won't be all these crazy tokens like Pinkcoin and stuff, right? But there will be experimental tokens like Monero, right? And interesting experiments like that. So, but yeah, and my biggest thing is that it will reduce the need for centralized exchanges. That's my biggest thing, Tone. I think with these swaps, is that they will allow for decentralized exchanges, so we can finally not have to worry about all these hacks on these centralized exchanges.
I would just say to help sum up the Lightning debate, we had a big debate about whether we should just kick the can down the road and double the block size. That was the simple solution. That was the raising the deficit ceiling that the government keeps doing. And they've done that for 20, 30 years now. What we chose to do instead was to do the complicated thing, to build the layer 2 solution. And it took longer, and it took more testing, and it's more complicated than just kicking the can down the road. And yeah, we had big interference from people that were mining at a 30% advantage, who created their own coin, who sponsored their own fake resistance, and who muddied up this debate. But when it really came down to it, Bitcoin did the hard thing, and it built the layer 2 solutions. It brought on SegWit. And it's like what John F. Kennedy said: we choose to go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is difficult.
Absolutely. And to that, I really want to speak, just quickly mention Bisque, right? The decentralized exchange. They could have gone the ICO route, right? Like everybody else, and they could have gone over ERC20 and MetaMask, but no, they spent years, literally guys, years building their software out to make it as authentic to Bitcoin as possible, which means no trust, no risk, no counterparty risk, make it truly trustless as best as they could. And I really just have to plug them, because that is they really are sticking to the cypherpunk ethos over there on Bisque, and they are open source, so they will provide I believe value for the whole mess of decentralized exchanges that are to come in the future. So awesome show, guys. Thanks so much for joining. I think we can end it there. We have over 1,000 viewers right now. Most of the show had over 800 viewers. So thanks, guys, so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We brought back the classic gang today. Me, Tone, and Thomas. Really hope you guys enjoyed that. Tried to get a hold of Jimmy, but of course, Jimmy's a busy guy. He's always traveling. So we have the benefit of Tone actually being home right now, because Tone does spend a large amount of the year traveling. Actually, both Tone and Thomas these days really spend a large amount of time traveling. So really glad for them to be able to be be nailed down for some time. And we really appreciate you guys donating your time again to this show. So thanks again, guys, for joining us. Thanks for joining us in the chat. Please, if you guys missed the show, please, hit us up in the comments. Tell us what you think. Hit a thumbs up if you guys like this, and hit a thumbs down, of course, if you don't like it. We try to bring you new content here each and every day at the World Crypto Network. We have lots of big plans in the works for the audio, for syndication on our audio stream, as well as for new shows on the YouTube channel. So, and we really appreciate it. We hope you guys like it. And until next time, we're here every Sunday. So remember, guys, we're here every Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific. So until next time, keep talking Bitcoin. We'll see you guys later.